I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is the HasanDaily broadcast coming to you live from not sunny, but actually gloomy California, Los Angeles, folks. We're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and MBs are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. Today is Sunday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sunday, fun day, and we are live. We're alive, and the Theracane is back. It's 2020 Hasi. It's holiday Hasi.
It's not a hard choice. The guys that just made the swap.
I've seen this already. Streamers shouldn't be political is one of the worst takes I've ever heard. This is an old.
Not a hate symbol in the Coast Guard anymore, or people who want free healthcare. If you can't choose between the swastika not being a hate symbol anymore and free healthcare, I fear you are stupid. And if that hurts your feelings, I am talking about you. I think women shouldn't have the right to vote versus I don't want kids to go hungry. Fun fact about conservatives, literally throughout all of history, and I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about all of history, being conservative has always been wrong. Forever. Progress has...
It's true. It is true. It is true. Let's be real now. That's just how it is. A lot of people don't want to see it, but it is the truth. It's not an accident that conservatives, you never really think about the conservatives being on the right side of anything. Why is that the case? Like people will say, well, what about the Republicans, Hasan? They abolished slavery. Okay. Would you say that they were the conservative party? Or would you say that they were the ones who were combating those who wanted to conserve the practice of chattel slavery, enslaving black people? Because it kind of feels like they weren't trying to conserve that. Now, they had some conservative elements from today's perspective, surely. I mean, one of the things that old Abe Lincoln did was put 38 indigenous people. He gave them the death sentence. He was far more forgiving of a lot of the whites that were engaging in slavery. Far more forgiving of them than he was of the indigenous people that he put to death, the Native Americans. But, you know, there wouldn't say that they are all, ultimately they were the conservative party in the equation.
Always been right. Now, progress sometimes gets it wrong, but at least they're trying. Conservatism has literally never been right. I hope that helps. Oh, well, I don't really pay attention to politics. Insane way to say I'm stupid. Being a centrist is quite literally just like tiptoeing that line is just, that's having privilege and going, it doesn't affect me personally, so I don't have to give a shit about it. Straight passing white guy here, I could close my eyes for the next 50 years and I would be fine. But I say the things I believe because I'm not a bitch. It's not.
This is good take overall. As someone from the UK, I didn't realize how far right a lot of Americans are until I started watching you. It's quite shocking. I don't know why I'm surprised, to be honest. I don't know why it's surprising. Yeah, I mean, the UK is pretty far right too on a lot of issues. It is what it is, you know? In this upcoming decade, there will be a lot of Americans who will go, okay, we've been lied to about China, but then also, no, that's not even optimistic. It's already happening. But I think there will also be a lot of Americans who might even go so far as to say, perhaps a lot of what we knew about the current conditions in North Korea are wrong too. I saw a CNN piece on it recently, and the improvements in Pyongyang, despite like the North Korean form of governance that, you know, I also personally think is a little ridiculous. Pyongyang has improved dramatically in spite of the mass blockades. I've talked about the DPRK's history and, you know, the genocide that took place. That would be considered a genocide if it wasn't like led by the American government at the time, and how devastated North Korea has been and how fucked over North Korea has been, but also simultaneously talked about the dynastic rule of the Kim family. Having said that, this is shocking. I keep seeing clips about DPRK and specifically Pyongyang and how much they've improved in Pyongyang, and I will admit, I'm shocked about it. I did not think that the level of improvement was at this level because I'm an old school left book guy, okay? And back in the day, I used to get really mad at communists on the internet that would say, you don't understand. They're eating hamburger and cheeseburger every day in Pyongyang. And that was like, obviously, you know, we're talking like 10 years ago. So that wasn't even the case. And I also got annoyed with the metric of quality of life standards improving being anchored around how many fucking cheeseburgers someone can eat. I thought that was a really stupid way to analyze this stuff. Having said that, these motherfuckers are eating a lot of cheeseburgers, at least in Pyongyang. And of course, others will now turn around and do the same thing that they were doing about the rest of China to say, well, in other places in North Korea, they're not eating cheeseburger. Pyongyang is just, the capital. So it's different. It's like that's where all the elites are living. And there's truth to that. But there's also a little bit of copium, I think, in that, because not a single one of you motherfuckers in this chat, myself included, would have ever thought that Pyongyang's living standards would have reached this level, in a matter of a couple decades.
And tour guide Justin Martell was absolutely stunned.
Honestly, Pyongyang feels very much like a modern city. We kept joking with our Korean guides that it was Pyonghattan.
Entire neighborhoods have sprung up since his last trip in 2017.
Like just from 2017 to like 2025, the quality of life improvements and like the development that has taken hold in the capital is crazy.
Fancy restaurants, futuristic skyscrapers.
And they were completely modern restaurants. I was there, we ate there. Western menu, Asian menu, Korean menu, high-end liquor, also car dealerships as well. So if you're staying at
this is one of the craziest parts about it, like the car dealerships. That's crazy. The food stuff makes sense because like inevitably you're gonna improve your agricultural output, stuff like that. But when you actually are able to go from having the entirety of the population, with the exception of like party members and party leadership, taking personal cars, and maybe some people getting on the buses every now and then, to like straight up having vehicles on the street, that's an insane thing.
Akto International Hotel on one end of the city, and you want to go out in HwaSong district, it's going to take you about 40 minutes to get there by taxi, just because of how big the city has now become.
The North Korean elite appear to be enjoying a higher living standard these days, with more access to modern technology.
I doubt this, not gonna lie. It's probably just a super elite who get to live in this area. I doubt the average North Korean working class lives in such good conditions. Okay, I need you to understand something. We're talking about fucking North Korea, brother. Yeah, no shit. Except that's what's so remarkable about it, because I think if you were... Guys, we're talking about a country that post-dissolution of the USSR was done. Mass famine, mass death. There were no societal elites or party elites that were able to have any living conditions that resembled like modern living conditions in the developed world. So for me, the fact that they've been able to elevate the living standards of even like, people in Pyongyang to this degree is crazy. This is not to say like the North Korean system of governance is good or whatever. It's my favorite. I'm not saying any of that shit, right? I'm simply stating that you ask the average like person in the West and they think like Yeonmi Park is correct, that they're eating rats and they're pulling and pushing trains out there. Meanwhile, you look at fucking Pyongyang and they're like, they've been able to elevate the living standards to this degree in Pyongyang. And if they're elevating the living standards to this degree in Pyongyang, they're probably, improving the quality of life in other parts of the DPRK as well, in a similar capacity to how China has been able to do so in the rural areas, like developing out the rural areas slowly but surely, while simultaneously greatly improving cities that you now consider to be tier 1 cities, even if they're unofficially tier 1 cities. And I think a big part of this is also because of, obviously, like Russian investment and Chinese investment specifically. I would feel pretty confident in saying that this is due to the increased ties with Russia and to a lesser extent China. Since the war in Ukraine started, there's been a lot more trade coming through compared to before. Yeah. There's also cryptocurrency. I think cryptocurrency was really good for North Korea, straight up. Isn't it kind of funny, though, to praise a communist country on the wealth of its elites? No, I'm not even like, this is not even praise, honestly. This is more so fascination and shock from the perspective of someone who understands why DPRK is the way it is, who is critical of the dynastic rule and all these other issues. Having said that, I think it's appropriate to admit that this is, standards that I did not think, a quality of life improvement, at least in the capital, that I didn't think was the case. I'm admitting my own personal lack of knowledge in this.
And amenities.
They have apps on their phones where they can order taxis.
I don't understand how you glaze authoritarian regimes just for the development. The same level of development happened in the Chile in the 80s, and it was just not worth it. Beautiful question. Thank you so much for saying this. Thank you so much for asking this question, or at least like making this statement. You're comparing American allies and American puppet leadership or an authoritarian mode of governance that was specifically designed by the American State Department, and also the influx of foreign capital that flood the markets that played a role in the development, and then relegated state control over key sectors directly into the hands of multinational corporations that continue to dominate the lives of the Chilean population to this day. Same in Mexico, same in many other Latin American countries. You're comparing that to a country that has been shut off from the international marketplace by force, regardless of how much they suffered. In the immediate aftermath, as a matter of fact, of mass bombing campaigns that I still to this day will say amount to a genocide. So obviously there's a difference there. It's the same with like Cuban development or North Korean development as opposed to Chilean development. One is directly getting money pumped into its markets by foreign capital and foreign investors with the specific goal of controlling all of the formerly state-owned sectors. And, of course, there's going to be a tremendous amount of development there. The authoritarianism is still the authoritarianism. And no, under no circumstances am I glazing the DPRK government. Make no mistake.
Food, use social media.
And not just in the capital. On North Korea's East Coast, Kim built a brand new beach resort, luxury hotels, even a water park, a project President Trump talked about when he met Kim.
They have great beaches. You see that whenever they're exploding their cannons into the ocean, right? So I said, boy, look at that bridge. Wouldn't that make a great condo behind? And I explained, I said, instead of doing that, you could have the best hotels in the world right there.
For North Korea's privileged, at least, sanctions seem to be doing little to...
DPRK cut themselves off a bit more from international markets by taking out loans and never repaying. Meanwhile, the Chinese and Vietnamese paid back and therefore still had access to the global capital market. Not saying U.S. sanctions in the 90s didn't horrendously hurt, but DPRK cut themselves off from investment in the 70s. The DPRK's starting position is entirely different than Vietnam. Even a worse condition and far after Chinese governance had already started. It got flattened, it got genocided, and then on top of that, they were completely shut off from the international marketplace. And predatory loans that they did not pay back. Who gives a shit? Like, I think that those should be reparations regardless, not just like predatory loans that come with like tremendous austerity measures implemented directly to try and have foreign capital and foreign investment fuck your entire country up. Yeah, you're talking about like the Swedish government demanding the North Korean government pay for the Volvos that they sent over. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. I do think ultimately, none of this has to happen if there is truly fair trade, not just fair trade in the way that like international capitalists claim is fair, but just like allow countries to normalize relations with everybody and participate in the global marketplace. Motherfuckers don't know history at all, talking out of their ass with American propaganda. I mean, I think people are just primed into resisting anything that goes against the black and white thinking that is oftentimes offered to people. That's it. That's the problem. They just don't want that. Genocided, a war the North started. What is this revisionism? You're right. The South Korean brutal authoritarian dictatorship and its mass slaughter of anyone that they declared to be communist or socialist of any variety at the direction of first the same oligarch structure that dominated Japan was brought over to Korea, and it basically exchanged ownership from the hands of Japanese imperialists to the American imperialists, and then at the direction of the American imperialists, the insane authoritarian puppet state started absolutely fucking slaughtering the shit out of people that maybe had a little bit of sympathy towards socialism, and the massacres that took place. All of that stuff was just completely irrelevant. It was all DPRK. This is literally the most Israel style argument. Genocide? You mean October 7, a war that Hamas started? What is this revisionism? Okay. I think any country that is carefully and deliberately excised from the international marketplace that ends up surviving is a testament to the resilience of all humans, regardless of the odds. That's how I see it. Countries that have been ritualistically humiliated, dominated, destroyed, bombed into oblivion, that still find ways of surviving is a true testament to the human resilience in general.